Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, we have some of our American neighbors are going through a really tough time. 2 hurricanes in short order. And, you know, we're lucky. We don't have to deal with that. When you live this far inland, there's just certain perks. Yeah, we don't live close to a beach, but we don't have to do this, do we? And I feel like I could fill in some of the gaps for you because, you know, I'm born and raised up here. And then I had to live down there for a while. And this is when it gets real interesting. You know, the hurricane, first off, as a guy from Texas who never saw a hurricane until he was like 30, I did some really childish stuff. And you would too, if it was your first time in a hurricane. And my wife isn't this dumb because this is normal for her. She had already been through like a bazillion hurricanes by the time she met me. But when you hear that there's like 160 mile an hour winds, 165 mile an hour winds, you know what you want to do? I know this is stupid. You want to go stand out in it. I know they tell you not to. I know there's people on TV, you know, you need to hunker down and be safe. Don't be out because flying debris and it's really dangerous. And you're like, but dude, I need to feel, if I've never been in 165 mile an hour winds. We don't have this. This is so cool. And you don't know why it's cool. But you do. You have to go stand out in. And then you're disappointed because if you're in a neighborhood, even if the wind's going 165 miles an hour, there's trees and houses that are sort of breaking it up before it gets to that low level. So if you really want to feel it, you got to go stand in like an open field. So I went and drove to an open field. I'm so stupid. I really am. But I think you would do this too. I don't know. You might have better judgment than me. So that's one of the things you do. The other thing that's going on right now, this is snack time. Snack time? Oh, they don't tell you about this on the news, do they? So hurricane snacks are a thing. When you go to the store before a hurricane, because everyone has days and days and days notice, of course, you get some water and you get some toilet paper and you get some paper towels and maybe a blue tarp if they have them. But you get tons and tons of snacks. And it's not that you're necessarily a bum. It's that you're expecting your fridge to go out and you don't want to cook. You want to just be able to open a box or a can and start eating. So, you know, it's like mixed nuts and then there's candy and then there's beef jerky. And really the hurricane snack phenomenon is something you could really tell a lot about a person by when you send them into the grocery store during an emergency. Like, get yourself some food for the next few days. Whatever they come out with, you get some starkly different results. Because you'll see it manifest itself with the weird different personality traits. Like someone will complain that there's like Vienna sausages. Oh, I don't want to eat Vienna sausages. Well, why did you buy them? Why do you have them? You get to choose your hurricanes. Did you just like see your parents buy them for hurricanes? And so you got in the habit of buying them and now you just stuck with them and now I got to eat them all. But there's a lot more people that don't evacuate than I thought. Being from up here, I just figured, hey, if there's a giant storm coming that could wipe out your entire city and flood your house and kill you, everyone would get out. No, man. Even in the worst storms that I encountered while I was there, I think maybe 60 or 70% of the people would evacuate. Worst of the worst. But there's a lot of people who have this mantra of, I don't evacuate. I just don't. I'm not one of those people. They never evacuate. There's some stubborn hardheads, and I'm pretty hard-headed, but not like that. Another thing they don't tell you is people have certain practices. One of the common ones is you'll fill your bathtub full of water before the hurricane starts because there's no guarantee that your water system will still work, or if the pumps bust, then you're on a boil water advisory. And if you ever want to take a bath, that's your only chance. Some people fill up the bathtub so they can have just a source of clean water, like they dip a cup in it and drink it or cook with it or something. Some people start that bath so after all the power goes out for like 7-8 days and it's 100 degrees outside, you get in the bath to stay cool. So that's a cool thing. And it's cool because when I was on the radio there, you know, we had the generators downtown. We had to sleep on air mattresses in the station, and all the TV stations and radio stations there have a shower and a locker room in it, like you're going to Planet Fitness or you're playing football in high school. And that's icky. You don't want to like be naked around your coworkers. You don't want to be taking a shower, washing up. Ugh. It's really weird. It's really awkward. It's really intimate is what it feels like. And then you get on the radio and people are calling you and you can hear splashing around. It's like, excuse me, sir, are you calling me from the bathtub? Yeah, a lot of times people would call you from the bathtub. But right now, they're in the immediate aftermath. And now the immediate aftermath is usually easy. But after a bad storm, or just depending on your circumstances, this might be the hardest part. You know, if you got flooded, like the water came up above the foot level of your house, or a tree fell on your house, or your roof blew off, you know, something big happened, it's almost like you got shot in the butt in Vietnam, like Forrest Gump's $1 million wound in Vietnam. You're out. You don't have to fight it out anymore. You don't have to do your urban camping. You don't have to stay. You get out. You're done. So another big chunk of the population is leaving right now. These people that got their house blown off, they're not going to sit there and stay on the slab, are they? So now you're down to like the immediate aftermath. The population drops to something really low, depending on how bad it is, 30%, 20%, maybe just 10% in the worst case scenario. But I don't think it ever got below that. So now you have a ghost town. Now it's not even raining. The sun's out. Now everything's wrecked, but you can walk around. There's no cars on the street. There's no pedestrians. There's no jogging moms in the nice part of town. There's not even dogs barking. None of the street lights are working. It is weird. It's like at the end of what was that Keanu Reeves movie, Devil's Advocate, where he walks out in New York and the streets blank, and it's the weirdest thing. So now they're in this sort of Grand Theft Auto map is what it looks like. And you're immediately doing pickups. So if your house is still surviving, like something that happened to me, my kids had a trampoline with the net that goes all the way around it. That whole thing gets picked up, blown over our 6-foot-tall privacy fence, bangs against our neighbor's house, and is laying in like a crumpled mess in our neighbor's backyard. Sorry about that. Sorry about hitting your house with our trampoline. So when we replaced it, got another trampoline, still had the big net around it. But we had these weights that you put on the legs. It just delayed the time frame by which the trampoline got picked up and thrown over the fence and banged against our neighbor's house. So we stopped buying trampolines. It was not a good deal. But if you're in a rural area, it's a little different than being in a city area. The first hurricane I was in, I was on the other side of the lake. And what happens up there is trees get blown down into the street. And so a lot of people right there are in the situation where they're going to have to get out some chainsaws and whatnot and start cutting up all the trees that are in their street so they can get out. You can't go to the store. You can't go to the doctor. You can't go get a tarp and blue roof your roof. Do y'all know what blue roofing is? That's when you have a problem with your roof after a storm, and the first thing you do is go get some bungees and a tarp and put it up there so you can still live in the house and prevent further damage. But that's the next phase. Once you got the streets clear, then it's blue roof phase, and you take care of all your neighbors, even if you don't know them. It only takes a second. And then your standard of living is going to be determined after that by whether or not you have a generator. So when we play like the Kenerator spots, you people look like geniuses who are actually like, I'm going to do the right thing and invest for an emergency. So I have you're geniuses. You look like absolute Stephen Hawking's at this point if you have a generator. So it's either snacks in your fridge with the AC on and your TV running, or it's snacks while you're sweating in a boring, silent room. But that's up to you. You do a lot of cooking on propane grills. There's a lot of people going to Lowe's and getting generators. But you know what no one gets? It's the weirdest thing. No one goes and gets a windmill. No one goes and gets a solar panel. No one's glad, I'm glad I got a Tesla, because they're useless after a day or two. Another thing, people are using cash. Your debit card doesn't do a whole lot of good if there's no electricity, no electronic means. No Bitcoin, no Apple Pay, cash, baby. Cash is your friend. That thing they want to take away. And the other thing that's missing, no public transportation. If you don't have a car, you are stuck. If you decided, I'm going to rely on public transportation, I'm going to ride DART. It's more efficient, lower carbon footprint. I'm the good person. You're stuck. If you got an electric car, you are stuck. And the last thing they don't show you is the kayak guy. Every neighborhood in a hurricane area has a kayak guy. When the streets flood, he gets in his kayak and he does a little double paddle down the street. And it's funny like the first 8 times. But after that, you kind of want to start throwing rocks at him or something. It's not funny. Haha, I get it. The streets are flooded. Our neighborhood's ruined. I'm glad you're having a good time. Kayak guy. Hope you get an infection. All right. Your stories, if you have them, 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Some important hurricane updates from the ground in Florida next on The James Show. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Well, our neighbors in Florida could use some thoughts and prayers and maybe some donations if you got them. Here to make a little more in-depth conversation about what they're going through right now, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, Tom Bradshaw. is on the James Show. Thanks for being on, Tom. Where are you at right now?
Well, I'm actually here in Fort Worth. Yeah, we're here at the local National Weather Service office, so we were kind of watching the storm from afar yesterday.
So I guess we're through the worst of it?
Pretty much. I mean, the storm made a pretty rapid transit across the Florida Peninsula. It's pretty much out of the area, and now folks are picking up the pieces. Lots of damage on a lot of different fronts down there.
Did it break any records?
There were some rainfall records that were likely broken in St. Petersburg. There was as much as 18 inches, which is a lot of rainfall for one day, even down in Central Florida.
That's a ton.
Yeah, definitely.
What about the storm surge? What did that end up being?
That storm surge, I think they're still doing analysis. I think there were some indications that we may have had anywhere from 5 to 10 feet of storm surge. It might be a little bit lower than what they were predicting, but obviously enough of significance to cause some significant issues across a good part of the coast down there.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of drywall work in their future, I imagine.
Definitely.
Okay, so as the meteorologist, you know the secrets of which side's the strong side and which side's the weak side, and so we know which side got the worst of it. Where'd that strong side go through?
Well, traditionally, the strongest side tends to be on the right side of the storm as it makes landfall. This storm is a little bit different this time. Actually, the strongest parts of the storm, in many respects, were actually in the front and actually on the north side of the storm. So some areas, in Tampa Bay area, St. Petersburg had some of the strongest winds. Obviously, some of the strongest storm surge was on the right side. So the surge-wise, much stronger on the right side down in southwest Florida. Wind-wise, probably a little more significant up from the Tampa Bay area, just a little bit further north from there.
What made this one so different is because it was traveling east?
There was a very unusual track climatologically. Obviously, a lot of warm water in the eastern part of the Gulf of Mexico, weak shear. The storm had plenty of energy plenty of juice to grow quite strong. It was Cat 5 at one point. It started to lose a little bit of its strength as it made landfall. It got a little bit of shear as it made landfall, but lots of juice out in the eastern Gulf of Mexico this time of the year, and so there's plenty of energy for these storms to work with.
Are we in the clear for now, or is there another one brewing?
We're in the clear for now. There's actually some indications and some of the far-out model guidance that may be a little bit more issues brewing, but there's still a long way out to kind of analyze that and see if there's any validity to it. So we're good down there. Obviously, Florida has some time to do some cleanup work for the next several days down there, which I know they're going to need desperately.
What about around here? When are we going to get some rain? You're in Fort Worth.
Good luck with that. Unfortunately, it's going to be hot and dry for at least, it's going to be hot for the next 3 or 4 days. We'll get a little bit of a cool down with a front at the beginning of the week. As far as any sustained rainfall, it looks like it's at least going to be another 10 days out, probably late October before we get any fronts come down that'll bring any possible relief from the rainfall side of things.
In emergency times like this, do y'all go to the mattresses? Do you have to stay at work and 24 hours a day? Y'all are just working in 6-hour shifts, keeping up with this stuff?
Well, obviously the offices down in Florida, they were working basically 12 to 24-hour shifts down there. They were battening down the hatches. They were staying in the offices. Out here in the plains, we're oftentimes kind of serving a support role. We serve as secondary backup to some of the offices. We provide some kind of peripheral support, but the folks down in the Florida Peninsula, they were the ones that were actually really taking the brunt of it. And they obviously live down there. They have their homes, damaged and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Well, it really makes me appreciate being there for a few years that I get to go home tonight and sleep in my own comfortable bed with like air conditioning and everything. Tom Bradshaw, National Weather Service, thank you so much for taking some time.
Sure thing. Take care.
That's the worst part. You realize what a weakling you are when you don't have air conditioning. Look, you can tough it out. Hey, man, I take a little heat. It's no big deal. I'm from Texas. Yeah, talk to me in about 48 hours. You'll be grumpy. You'll be yelling at your dog. Your wife's irritating. We can't do it. We have made ourselves so weak. There's no such thing as going without air conditioning. Next, you're going to hear Bill Nye, the science guy, say that, listen, man, if you want to do something about these hurricanes, you're going to have to vote for Kamala Harris. Seriously? Yes. I'll play it for you. And then we're going to go through the Bill Nye archives here, put a little context on that. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. I mean, do you think he really believes that? Or is he just saying that for political gain? Is he just trying to incentivize people to go vote in the way he wants to? Seriously, do you think Bill Nye really thinks that it'll help the weather if you vote Team Blue? 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there. Welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Did you see Bill Nye, or did you hear Bill Nye? When we talk about, let's not get political on this, some people just politicize everything as hard as they possibly can. And as strong of opinions as I have on politics and, these current events and these issues that we talk about on WBAP, you have never heard me say, well, you got to vote this way if you want to control the weather. It's such a funny King Canute situation. King Canute, the old, I don't even know. He was a real dude, but I don't know if the story's real. His court would worship him. They say, you have the power of gods. And no, I don't. And yes, you do. You're chosen by God. Okay, so let's go out to the sea and I'll tell the tides to stop. See, it doesn't work. All right, now let's come up with another solution. Yeah, they can't control the weather. The person that's in charge of the government, that's still out of their jurisdiction. I know you love government and I know you think it's all powerful, but this is, and he didn't specifically say, if you don't want any more hurricanes, vote for Kamala Harris. But let me play you what he did say. And we're going to go, I have a little bit of Bill Nye archives, but my question for you is going to be, does he really believe this? Do you think even Bill Nye really believes this?
And so that's why everybody's trying to get people to evacuate. Now, I'll just say one more thing. Allison, do we have a moment?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Everybody, if you have young people in your family or your extended family, people you know, just try to get them to vote. Okay. I have worked very hard for many years to be political
young
and not
people.
partisan.
Sure.
Like trying to evaluate the science and let's make decisions based on the science. But right now we have one political party who is aggressively ignoring the warming ocean, the rising ocean, the size and frequency of these storms. And that is not in anybody's best interest. So we'll get through this, and I wish everybody the best. Our hearts go out to you all. I mean, you've been through this over and over, and we will support you, of course. But the action to take in the next month or so is to vote with the climate in mind. Thank you.
Man, it's amazing how much this guy gets wrong in just that clip. We are not having more frequent, more intense storms. In fact, we just came out of the longest stretch we ever had without a major hurricane making landfall in North American history. So I don't know where he's coming with on that. I don't know where he's coming with, well, I've never tried to be partisan before. I've talked about politics, but never really, because I've got some audio here that says otherwise. And then he wants you to get young people to come out to vote. Young people? Why not old people? Oh, that's right. Because they won't vote the way you want. So you're not concerned about people, missing out on their ability to exercise their rights. No, you're just saying this is a veiled excuse to try and get a turnout that would be politically favorable to you. Pretty dishonest propaganda stuff, but that's all right. Look, he's allowed to have strong political opinions. He's allowed to pretend like he's a scientist and slip it in there like it's not politics, like it's not political activism. Let me give you an example of, look, we all know his show do we all know his show from years ago? Because when I was junior high and high school when this Bill Nye the Science Guy. Bill. Yeah, so older people, I used to watch this when I was a kid. Younger people, you might already know who Bill Nye the Science Guy is, because even though this show went off on, was it on like PBS or something? He's an online guy now, and so younger people might still know him. Let me give you an example of his show. We're going to go all the way back to 2021. It's Biden's first year in office, and he's pushing through his infrastructure bill. Bill Nye has him on to help him push it and explain why it's so good. This piece of legislation, not this scientific thing, not this experiment, not this chemistry set. This legislation is on a science show,
Please consider the following. If you're like me, you want the U.S. to be a bit better. And for that, we have two bills, and I'm not either one of them. I mean, I'm a bill. I'm not an infrastructure bill. You've heard about that. The House of Representatives passed it recently. That's for our roads, our power lines, our water pipes, to upgrade them and improvement so that we can have a better infrastructure. Next would be for addressing climate change, for providing people the means to weatherize their houses and make them more resilient to climate change, and establish a civilian climate corps. This would be something for people of all ages to get good union jobs here in the United States so that we can, working together, build back better.
So you're using my lines here.
I really am a believer in this. You know, I'm old enough to remember when the U.S. was the leader in innovation.
He's talking to Biden right here.
Driving. Yes, we love driving.
Yes, we do.
And electric cars are the future. They're clean, they're efficient, they're quiet.
We're going to build 500,000 charging stations.
And we want to electrify our ground transportation so we don't have this carbon in the atmosphere. I say all the time, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, the progress of science and useful arts. It's in the Constitution. Come on, everybody. What's not to love? We're just trying to change the world here, people.
We're going to change the world.
Infrastructure is cool. Isn't that what we do nowadays?
Wow. Boy, I forgot what a trip in time that was. Hey, did they build 500,000 charging stations like they promised they were going to? If you don't remember, we got the report earlier this year. They built like eight. Not 500,000, like 8. So that's great. If that had been written by the DNC, by the Democrat National Committee, would one word of it have been different? Doesn't stop there. Bill Nye is also a big believer in letting 3-year-olds choose their gender. Look, that's what you got to do. You old traditional man bigot.
You know what I mean? It's another sexy sliding scale. When you throw in gender, it gets even more colorful. By 3 or 4, most kids identify with a gender, and it doesn't always match the sex they were assigned at birth.
Jesus
and
Christ.
A person's gender identity may change over their lifetime.
Oh
and
my God.
Culture is getting us new ways to express all of this.
No.
How you dress, how you act and talk, how you present yourself to the world. It should be up to you. Sure, this might make things confusing for those who insist everyone pick an M or an F. But people, we have to listen to the science. And the science says we're all on a spectrum.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's Bill Nye the Science Guy. Can we just make a volcano with vinegar and baking soda and I like that Bill Nye better. I like the Bill Nye that used to blow stuff up or make something melt. Not the Bill Nye that's coming at a toddler with a pair of pruning shears. A 3-year-old can pick their gender? Really? My 3-year-old thought he was Spider-Man. He did spin a web, though. That was kind of weird. All right, just to let you update you, that guy that you used to like, Bill Nye the Science Guy, oh yeah, total hack at this point. And he's got a show that's nothing but propaganda, but he's telling you, if you don't like these hurricanes, vote Kamala, and we'll take care of that. Does he really believe that? 800-288-9227. I really have a hard time believing he actually believes that. Coming up next, Raven Harrison from the RoarPack.com. The election's only 26 days away, and it looks like Trump's starting to pull ahead. How much is his lead? We'll talk about it next. But for those of you who are trying to win that trip to see Scorpions in Vegas at Planet Hollywood, I'm going to give you another one of these keywords. This will give you another chance to win, another entry in our contest from Live Nation. The word, like, L-I-K-E. You text that to 95819. Text like to 95819 to enter to win. I'm going to give you another clue before the end of the James Show today. For a list of contest rules, go to WBAP.com. Raven Harrison next. I'm James Parker. This is The James Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So there's some people who are disappointed in the response that FEMA gives them. I'm disappointed you expect a good response from FEMA to begin with. What's FEMA's big success story? What gives you the impression that they're giving the kind of help you're expecting? And look, not to beat people up while they're down. They're in a terrible time, and I'm like this. I don't know if she's an influencer, but her name online is Nashville Angela, And she had a pretty big following, so I imagine this isn't among her first videos. But she was complaining about how there's no help from FEMA in North Carolina. I'd pulled this a couple days ago.
So I just left the airport. We picked up a flight of pediatric medical supplies that were brought in and are going to North Asheville. We were sitting in the private portion of the airport, and we got to overhear an awful lot. The Army pilots, the Navy pilots, hospital representatives, there was a lot of chatter. While we were there, a private jet landed and 4 FEMA representatives got off. Four people off of a private jet. Come to find out, and you're not going to hear this, so let me tell you. Come to find out, Mission Hospital was told, a private hospital, that they are going to go ahead and be the morgue center for body recovery. All of the Army Chinook helicopters you're seeing flying overhead, they are doing body recovery. FEMA said, and you can take this as a direct quote, said that they are too tied up at the border to send any more representatives. Yeah, at the border. So anyhow, I guess border control trumps whatever's going on here. So they told Mission Hospital they are not sending refrigerated trucks so that they can stack the bodies up. And we also overheard that whatever fatality numbers you are hearing, and this is a quote, go ahead and add a couple of zeros. So FEMA's too busy with the border. A private hospital and the Army are going to take over body recovery, and private individuals with their private helicopters and their private planes are the ones who are flying in supplies.
Yep.
I was at Hangar 10. I was picking up supplies. There was a stack for the Cajun Navy. There was a stack that looked like it was ASPCA. These are all being sent by private individuals. FEMA is doing nothing. Go ahead and share that.
There you go. I wish you could have seen it as many times as I have, but you would have to go through a lot of disasters. So without having to go through the disasters, just trust me, we would be just fine if FEMA ceased existing today. Of all the people that get rescued whenever there's a big hurricane or a flood or something to that effect, I don't know what the actual statistic is because I don't expect government to compile it for you. But I bet you it's around 99% of the people who get rescued are rescued from private means. They're not rescued from FEMA, that's for sure. You see, FEMA doesn't even have any boats running around there yet. FEMA's not picking up anybody. FEMA's not providing any hot meals. FEMA's not providing anybody shelter. FEMA may, in a week or so, give you a debit card with $200 on it if you're willing to stand in this line for 4 hours when it's 101 degrees. Oh, I know how this works. And the dastardly part is who should be getting the credit? It's not just the stolen valor. It's the valor to begin with. It's you. It's people like you. When they talk about the Cajun Navy wasn't a new thing after, what was that, the Hurricane Harvey floods where there's a lot of national stories about those guys. No, the Cajun Navy is something that happens like 4 times a year in Southeast Louisiana and the Gulf Coast. And they have people like that in Mississippi and Alabama and the panhandle of Florida and all the way down in Florida. It's just a bunch of people who are derisively called rednecks or hicks or flyover country or mouth breathing, cousin kissing, window licking, booger eaters, whatever. But they have boats and they're prepared and they have vehicles and they have big trucks, giant trucks, really tall trucks that sit high off the ground that can go through floodwaters and mud and dangerous situations. And they rescue almost everybody after a natural disaster like this. This has been my observation. This is what I've seen with my own eyes. Do you know how many hot meals FEMA serves? It's 0. You know who does come and serve hot meals? People like you, number one. People who have a little diner, some mom and pop diner. They get some propane grills and they stay open and they take cash. Or they reopen as soon as the storm's over and they take cash. There are people who will set up, like if you have a food truck or if you have one of those grills that's on a trailer, you'll go set up in a park and just start feeding people. That's what happens. Catholic Charities shows up. Salvation Army shows up. In fact, when I was down in the New Orleans area, it was always a race to see who would get there first, Salvation Army or Catholic Charities. Is it going to be the Protestants or the Catholics? And it was a beautiful thing. It's terrible for the narrative to know the truth after a natural disaster. These two evil, right-wing, bigoted Christian pieces of the population are falling all over themselves to put themselves in harm's way just to help other people for no credit, for no profit, for no reward, for no glory. They don't even get to be on TV. Hell, the cameras turn away when they see them. But it's a beautiful thing. And I'm glad you don't get to see it because you don't have to get to live through these hurricanes. But damn it, I've seen it. I have the insight. I know what's really going on right now. And it's way better than you think. FEMA, get the hell out of here. The other thing the government really does bad for situations like this, I know this sounds like a stretch, but stick with me here. It's called the National Flood Insurance Program. You know, the private sector decided if you want to live below sea level and it's going to get flooded, like, I don't know, every few years, then this would be your cost for insurance for us to at least break even, if not make a profit. And people's like, well, that's too much. I'm not going to build there. But the federal government says, no, we'll cover the cost. So now people are financially incentivized to build in houses that are necessarily going to be destroyed on a regular basis. And you get the tab. And you get the tab for who? Is it the poorest among us that get to live on the beach? That get to live walking distance from the Gulf of Mexico? Or these rich people in condos and in beach houses and those cool little houses on stilts and their little condo and their timeshares? It's a nasty thing. That's a wealth redistribution mechanism from the poorest among us to the rich among us. And it just encouraged how many people, like they went and did the map on where the people died during Katrina versus whose insurance has to be subsidized by the federal government. And the fatalities in Katrina, this is just according to an estimate, would have been 30% what they were, because 70% of the people that died in Katrina were in places where the private sector said, you shouldn't build a house there. That's too dangerous. So it's not just bad economic policy. It's not just immoral because it's redistributing wealth from poor to rich people. It gets people killed too. Thanks, government. Thank you so much for your help. Isn't that nice? Coming up next, the Car Pro Show is hosted by a guy named Jerry Reynolds. I know you know the name. He's going to be on next to talk about what you can look for in cars that have been damaged in storms like this. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.